What's up, everyone? It's Caddy with Money Vesting. So, chip stocks, semiconductors here, absolutely crushing it on the day with AMD pushing up over 7.7%. Seeing a lot of momentum to the upside. We got Intel up 6% on the day, Lam Research 5.7%. Nvidia just keeps on doing what it does best, and that is going higher. It's only $90 off from its all-time highs now, only 35% away from hitting a new all-time high. Nvidia is up over 5.4% on the day. Micron up another 4.5%. Qualcomm, Applied Materials, On Semiconductor, TSM, Broadcom, Texas Instruments, you name it. All chips, semiconductors were pushing higher. In this video, I'll break down a handful of companies and their valuations. We'll talk about Nvidia, AMD, of course, and then I'll kind of tag along Intel and Qualcomm in that as well. In the future videos, I will be going over them in a more broad sense. I will be going over specific individual stocks and individual companies as well. But one of the big reasons was that TSMC actually came out with the utilization report for their fab manufacturing facility, and it's expected to recover starting in the second quarter of 2023. So again, this pretty much came out yesterday, Wednesday, March 15th. And what they mentioned was, based on the orders received, the sources anticipate the utilization rates for TSMC's 5 nanometer and 7 nanometer processes platforms will increase in the second quarter compared to the first. And we have seen this number pretty much decline quite a bit. And utilization rates for the foundry's 28 nanometer process nodes will also rise to near 100%, the sources indicated. Now, this is a very, very good sort of signal for potential demand, because if a lot of these companies are, once again, AMD, Nvidia use a lot of TSMC manufacturing base. They're the ones that design the chips. TSMC pretty much handles all the manufacturing. If utilization rates are up, that means demand is really coming back in, and that means more revenue and more earnings for these companies. So that's one of the reasons. And this number basically fell down to 40% in the first quarter of this year, expected to rise to as much as 50% in the second quarter. So we are seeing a little bit of recovery. Another really important catalyst pretty much driving this move higher, in my opinion at least, was the Microsoft event, right? Microsoft AI event. So Microsoft is holding a special Future to Work with AI event today, where the company says it'll be reinventing productivity with AI. And Microsoft is expected to demonstrate how its ChatGPT-like AI will work in Microsoft 365 and Office apps like Teams, Word, and Outlook. And again, this was another big catalyst, because if you compare a lot of these companies, they are working towards artificial intelligence, right? NVIDIA obviously powering ChatGPT on the back of its servers and chips. And we got AMD also focusing very much on artificial intelligence moving forward. So it's no surprise that there was a lot of, other catalysts, and the overall broad markets were very much green as well, with the NASDAQ pushing up over, I think, 2% on the day. S&P was up over 1.5%. The Dow also rallying quite a bit, with the yields pushing higher a little bit as well. We are seeing a bit of a risk-on environment with chips across the board pushing higher and doing really, really well. Now, just because the price is going higher does not make them more valuable. Yes, it makes them more valuable from a market cap standpoint. But if you take a look at the fundamentals, and I've kind of put together a spreadsheet, very, very simple spreadsheet here. And what I have is simply the ticker symbol, the price, the market cap it currently has in billions of dollars, revenue in billions, earnings in billions, and free cash flow in billions for 2022 or 2023, depending on which fiscal year they belong to. So 2022 or 2023. And then we got the very simple multiples here: price of sales, price of earnings, and price of free cash flow. Starting with NVIDIA. The big giant here continues to push higher, $255, and again up over 5.4%. Market cap has now crossed $630 billion. A lot of people believe that NVIDIA is going to be the first chip company or semiconductor company to be worth about $1 trillion, which obviously represents another 70 to 80% upside from here. But I just can't wrap my head around the valuation. Yes, the growth is there. I'm not denying the fact the growth and the potential is there for NVIDIA, but that still does not, in my opinion at least, justify the valuation. It's kind of priced for perfection at this point, right? It's like there can't be any errors with NVIDIA. If there are, I mean, how do you go about justifying a $630 billion market cap on $27 billion of revenue and $8.3 billion of earnings, and under $4 billion of free cash flow? That puts the company at 23 times sales. That's more than, in fact, that is twice. That's more than twice as much as the next three companies I have. Even if you combine the market caps and the revenues of AMD, Intel, and Qualcomm, Nvidia would still be valued at more than twice those three companies combined at 23 times sales. Price to earnings on a non-GAAP basis, trailing at 75. Forward might be a little bit lower, sure, because the earnings are expected to go up. And then price to free cash flow at 168. So really, really aggressive. And sure, on a forward basis, I'm not denying it can be a little bit lower because the company is expected to, again, reaccelerate a little bit. 2022 was not a great year because of the gaming and crypto and PC demand kind of slowing down. But compared to AMD, definitely from a risk-adjusted standpoint, seems a much better deal, so to speak, than compared to NVIDIA. But even AMD, I mean, I can make a case that it is a little bit on the expensive side at around $155 billion market cap, revenue sitting at $23.6 billion with their acquisition of Xilinx, $3.4 billion of earnings. And again, we had some intangibles in there because of their acquisition of Xilinx, $3.1 billion free cash flows. They're trading at 6.5 times sales, which is far more reasonable. Their NVIDIA, for example, right now, their sales multiple is a 3.5, so 3.5 times that of AMD. So in other words, NVIDIA on a sales basis trades at a 3.5 times more expensive than where AMD is at the moment. Price to earnings at 45.4 on a trailing basis. Forward's going to be a little bit lower because their growth expected here. Although I don't know if I believe their forward guidance was that earnings were going to decelerate a little bit. Considering what we are going through in 2023, and price for free cash flow at over 50. Intel is, more or less out of the conversation because it's not really growing anymore. Revenues have been declining, earnings were down substantially year over year, and free cash flows are also negative. That's why the valuation is so darn low. So we can kind of take that out of conversation. But Qualcomm is a very good company. It's a quality company, growing consistently. $128 billion market cap, under 3 times sales. And 10 times price to earnings and a little bit under 19 times free cash flows. Qualcomm, I can pretty much mention that it is, still at a very reasonable level. And of course, starting to push right back up, after being really, really oversold. So we're seeing a lot of momentum back up for Qualcomm. So I actually wouldn't be surprised if Qualcomm gets a little bit of momentum up to 14%, 15% upside, getting up to $150. But NVIDIA, man, the momentum is strong, right? The trend for NVIDIA is wild. And it could get up to 292. No denying the fact that the strong momentum could take us all the way up to $292. This is going to be that next resistance level to watch for the company coming in from March 2022. So that's going to be that next level to watch. And for Advanced Micro Devices, I actually sold a covered call today at close to about $100 because I do believe that, again, RSI, MACD, the price itself, a little bit on the overextended side. And again, talking about the valuations, it can be considered as somewhat rich. May not be from a price sales standpoint, but certainly from a price for free cash flow and price to earnings multiple basis, it is definitely a little bit on the higher end of what I would like to personally pay. So I'm comfortable kind of getting rid of some shares at close to $100, and then we'll reconsider if and when it drops down in the low 70s, low 60s once again. So those are some levels that I'm paying attention to for Advanced Micro Devices. But let me know your thoughts on these companies. What do you think about NVIDIA right now? What do you think about AMD? Let me know down in the comment section below. And TSMC also pushing higher. TSMC is also in a very solid position, although Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway have trimmed their position on this company. But I wouldn't be surprised considering a potential bull flag formation after a very strong rally and then a lot of consolidation sideways. I wouldn't be surprised to see a breakout and for TSMC to maybe retest highs of $109, $110 and a 22% upside for TSMC, considering that this right here is going to be that next target and that resistance level to watch. So Qualcomm watching 150, NVIDIA watching 292, AMD watching about 100, TSMC watching 109. And I can quickly go over Intel as well, just for the sake of going over it. $30 is going to be that resistance. We have seen a very strong rally for Intel. It has, pushed up quite a bit, up a little bit over 22, 21%. Dividend yield, because of dividend cuts, has come down to 1.76%. But $30 is going to be that next resistance to watch. We're kind of approaching that level for Intel at the moment, with the RSI also getting up to overbought levels. So, be careful. SMH here overall, this is the entire, semiconductor sector. We did have that inverse head and shoulders breakout, consolidation sideways. We're starting to break back up. And right now we've got a resistance sitting right over here. That's going to be sitting roughly at 255 for SMH. That's your semiconductor ETF. And then all the way up to this next resistance, which is going to be sitting roughly at 281 for SMH. So those right there are going to be a couple levels to watch for this semiconductor ETF. And we're not that far off. We're only down about 20% now from all-time highs. And it's only going to take the semiconductor sector 25% more upside to pretty much go back to all-time highs. So again, let me know down in the comment section below, what do you think about semis collectively on an aggregate basis, and then of course individual stocks, NVIDIA, AMD. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, found it helpful. If you did, make sure that you drop a like. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're just joining us for the first time, and the link to our Discord and Patreon is going to be down below if you're interested in joining us. As always, happy investing. I'll see you all in the next video.